Okay, now I'm recording. All right. So, boba tea. Want me to call you that, or is there something else you prefer to be? Well, boba.
Yeah, you can just shorten it to Boba. That's what
Boba.
pretty much
Okay.
everybody else calls me. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, boba is we'll call you a up and coming YouTuber, right? Because I actually just randomly found your channel a few weeks ago. I like actually just hopping in, seeing what the person's saying, right? Everyone starts somewhere, and
hmm
I know for my in my case, I never actually wanted to do YouTube. It was kind of happened by accident. So there you go. But kind of. So how long have you been playing the game? First of all.
Yeah. So the first kingdom I ever created an account in was 3032. Um, and so however long ago that was, I don't remember the exact like date or time, but I know that was the first kingdom.
Yeah.
Um, so I think I don't know about 2 years. I want to say 2.5 years maybe.
Okay. Uh. No, you should be under 2 years because my native kingdom is 2844, and I'm like right at 2 years now.
Oh, okay.
So if you're in a
Then
30,
there you
then
go.
you're probably like a year and like 7 or 8 months, if I had to guess. Okay, so that's when you
hmm
first started, right? And then obviously you're
Correct.
not there now. So did you like make some mistakes and then start over?
Yeah. So when I came upon the game, essentially, I treated it very much like Clash of Clans, which I don't
Yeah,
know if you're familiar with Clash of
I am.
Clans,
I
but
actually played it for maybe like 2 or 3 months, like mid,
yeah.
like 2015, 2016, something like that.
So like everything in that game was very much like everything had to be leveled up together.
Yeah,
And you don't prioritize like one thing at a time, or else it's like a rushed town hall, essentially. So that's how I
right.
played this game. Um, I watched YouTube videos because I was, just getting into it and trying to find my footing and am I interested in the game. And then I got to, I think it was either KVK 3 or KVK 4 in that account in 3032, and I had gotten to like 22 million power by that point, so very little power in all honesty.
Mhm.
Hadn't spent a dollar in the game,
Okay.
and I was fighting, and I just felt like I was doing nothing. I was just getting destroyed in the field, so
Yeah.
I made the decision to restarted in 3324. Played that for a while, didn't really enjoy the leadership there, so
Okay.
um,
I actually
I
just streamed
decided
that. Streamed their well, I didn't stream their fight specifically, but they were in the KVK.
yeah,
I
which
just
is
streamed
how
that
I
yesterday.
know
Yeah.
Jackie,
Mhm.
um, is because I had like talked to Jackie
Okay.
at like separate times, but I digress. So disagreed with like 24's leadership, remade this account, and this account was like, okay, we have some footing in the game. I feel like I'm understanding it better. I know kind of the timeline of how things operate, so let's make this account. So this account was started. I mean, I could look at the exact date, but it's 129 days old.
Okay.
So about 4 months old at this point.
Okay. So in total, you've probably been playing for a little over 2 years.
hmm
That still doesn't make sense. No, no, no. It's not over 2 years. You're still under two, because you still started originally after me. Okay, so
Yeah,
you're probably you're maybe like almost 2 years. Let's put it that way. Okay, and then just like out of curiosity, what actually got you started doing YouTube? I think you're like about 500 subs right now.
just shy of it, just shy.
Okay. Yeah,
But
that's
so
actually that's for the people that don't know. That's actually a milestone because you need 500 subs and 1,000 watch hours. I think
3,000.
three. No, no, isn't that for 1,000 subs? I want to say at
No,
five.
it
Okay,
for me it's 500 subs and 3,000 public watch hours to hit monetization.
and then it's 1,000 and 4,000 for the for something else.
Oh, I don't know. They haven't shown me that tier yet.
Yeah. So when I
They
was
just got the 500 and the 3,000
yeah, so
so
I know what I
far.
was really focusing on. So this is I started my channel December of 23, right? And
hmm
I remember the first thing I wanted to get was 500 subs and 1,000 watch hours because when I got that, I think I can actually monetize in something. I forgot what it was, but you needed 4,000 watch hours and then 1,000 subs to be able to actually monetize with ads and stuff. So the
Okay.
500 meant something to me. They could have changed it, right? I just, because once you pass it, you just
Yeah.
never think about it again. But
Yeah.
okay,
Oh,
all right,
totally.
all right, you're close. Okay.
But what started initially was in Kingdom 24, they had moved me into an R4 role
Mhm.
of like a of the third alliance, and a lot of people in that alliance had tons of questions all the time. And so what I had done is I had made like two separate videos on like KVK2 commander pairings,
Mhm.
and then like strategies for field fighting that I thought was going to be really helpful for them.
Yeah.
um and so I made those got like zero views, effectively zero, as in like
Mhm.
maybe 50 views on each of them.
Yeah.
And then I rebranded, deleted those videos, and just decided um to start like making videos here. I think it stemmed from honestly this weird like the brand I've kind of made with boba tea is that it's almost like a quote unquote like cult.
Yeah.
Because there were people changing their names in 70 after me, and people who were like really interested in me. And I think that just comes with being like an early game whale,
Yeah. Yeah.
honestly. So
Oh yeah,
I did
I
that,
looked up to
and
the whales in my KVK1, right? Like, and like I'm
yeah,
a grown ass man, but when you're in the game and you're like a small fry and you just think every one of these guys are like millionaires or something, I don't know. It's a
yeah,
thing. I get it.
totally. So there was that, and then I noticed a I guess lack of fresh content coming out from lower creators or smaller creators. You were one that actually I found, I feel like pretty early on, and I was like, oh, this guy makes really good content, I like him. And so I subscribed, and I've been watching your videos ever since.
Yeah.
But
All right. Appreciate it, man.
like I felt like a lot of the YouTube platform, obviously like Chiskel, he has a really
Mhm.
big reach. OmniArc, really big
Yeah.
reach. 12-inch, really big reach. But you get down to like the sub 5,000, 2,000 subscribers, and like those individuals make good content, they just don't have as wide of a net. And then you also had like the whole like certain people leaving Rise of Kingdom. So I noticed there was a demand for it, and I kind of wanted to fill it.
Okay.
So I guess that's how initially I got started with it.
Yeah. Right. When people get burned out or retire, like someone needs to fill the void, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. And then just in general, what would you like? I think you wrote in your whatever you submitted, like kind of like a general game plan for KVK 2 or 3.
Mhm.
But if you had to kind of describe what you would like to get out of today,
Yeah.
what would it be?
I I think largely in KVK1 as a whale and as a T5 player, I've very much been like the individual that gets consulted for war plans,
Mhm.
and having like these primary roles as being like a garrison captain or a rally captain.
Yeah.
But with cross season migration coming in, that takes a major step back because I
Yeah.
just don't have the armaments, I don't have the equipment, and even if I try and spend to get to that point, I'm still time wise really far behind those older accounts coming in. And
Yeah.
so I'm respecting the fact that I'll still be T5, but I'll have less of a role to play besides
Yeah.
like killing troops and having bodies on the field. So I guess my focus and what I'm looking to get out of it is kind of just advice on how to redirect my account from being that like garrison slash rally captain for KVK1 into more of the field fighter. And I guess the
Okay.
steps and the commanders I should focus on, and equipment I should focus on, to kind of switch and pivot in my roles.
Okay. And then you are in KVK 2 or you finished KVK 2?
We're in KVK1.
Oh, I thought from what you wrote, you were done with KVK 1. How far?
No.
How much longer do you have until KVK
We
1
have
is
12
over?
days.
12 days. Okay. You guys won. Oh
12
well,
days.
yeah. Looks like you guys won. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
I mean,
Okay.
yeah, you could say that. Zone invasion's coming up on the 9th, so looking forward to that. But
Okay.
um, it took 28 hours to lock the zone,
Okay.
which is really rather unfortunate, honestly,
Yeah.
because I had a lot of power and a lot of troops to kill, and
Yeah.
it's not looking like I'm gonna drop as much power as I was
Yeah.
hoping.
So a lot of the stuff you hear from content creators talking about how to contribute in a KVK, uh, you can throw a lot of that out the window, KVK 1 through 3, just
Hmm.
because you know you tend to have jumpers. You know, the stronger kingdoms tend to consolidate a lot of people, right? Like once you see like a little rising star, right, everyone wants to go there, right? Everyone
Yeah,
in that continent, especially
totally.
like within the vicinity of that kingdom, wants to go there. And it's very often that you'll get like really lopsided KVKs just because one kingdom is so much stronger. Like even if they like 1v3 some like the other three, they would like dominate,
Totally.
right? And then like it's really you know, leadership isn't like, as experienced. You know, people are like, oh no, we're just gonna farm, we're just gonna save ourselves for the next KVK. You know, AKA like we're gonna get our shit pushed in, and we just don't even want to go deal with it. Which
Uh, Totally.
I I don't like that, you know, but it's a lot more of a thing in the early KVK. So like it just is what it is, right? Like because if you don't get fighting or you don't get competitive fighting, then you're just not going to be able to kill troops like reasonably like in fighting or get KP.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
Now there's a couple of different dynamics that happen in the early game. It makes it really hard for a big spender transitioning into now it's KVK 3. It used to be KVK 4 where you got the end game commanders and stuff, right? Because
Right.
uh, KVK 1, you're the shit. I just like if you just spend
Yeah.
more money than other people and you play this game for 4 months before, or for you in your case, it sounded like you played it for like over a year, right? And you
Hmm.
go back, you're like the expert. And if you're spending enough to get like T5 in KVK 1, right? Like you can even see like when you hop into like the second alliance or something, people are like, "Oh my god, Boba T's here." They're like, "Hey, Boba
Yeah.
T!" Like it's like a local
I get
celebrity. Yeah,
I
yeah,
get
right.
that, yeah.
And
When they needed
yeah,
help, like, taking holy sites or passes, it was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I
It's
was
like, oh my
there
god,
and
yeah, yeah. It's actually,
roll out the red carpet for Boba kind of
yeah, yeah.
feeling.
I've
Yeah.
never actually experienced that, but I was on the other side of that, seeing that, and I could feel the like you know the human tendency to pull to like almost want to like fanboy a little bit. It's kind of weird, but I could
Yeah,
feel it happening to me.
totally.
So you go from that to KBK2, and I remember specifically. I'll tell you a story. I had there was a big KVK1 whale, right, about 80 mil power, right, which is about actually what you are
Mhm.
right now, right, and once KVK2 opened, we were the strongest kingdom in our continent at the time. You know, Rising Star, all that stuff. And there's this guy that came in about 60 mil power, right? And that whale actually ended up, I think he ended up like either having like a drinking problem or like a mental breakdown or something.
Ooh.
He was acting real erratic, like in Kingdom chat and stuff like that, right?
Oh, damn.
And this guy was about 63 mil power, came in and just wrecked that whale on the field, right? And he was like, you know, I'm a field fighter, whatever. I'm like, man, this guy's a badass, right? Now, fast
Mhm.
forward a year and a half later, looking back, or even honestly, even by the next KVK3, the guy wasn't even that good, right? But he had a huge advantage because he had a lot more time on his side, right?
Right.
So with that time, you get better equipment. You know, your commanders are just in a better place, and you know the original whale that kind of lost his mind. He spent a lot more. He clearly spent a lot more, but he just couldn't keep up. Okay, so
Yeah.
what you're talking about actually is a thing, and then what I see a lot, right? Kind of like the first barrier for a whale to make it past the first hurdle in the game is to actually want to keep playing past KVK2 or even in KVK2, because once
Mhm.
these cross season migrants come in, it's going to be really really annoying. Okay, so I've always thought about this because I mean, in a way, like I actually like the drama and the stuff in the early game, but I just
Mhm.
I only want to play one account, and I don't want to migrate my account back to the early game. So it's something kind of like, oh, if I was back in college, what would I do? Right? You know what I mean? Like it's like, oh, if I could go back to high school and college, knowing what I know now, I would dominate, right?
Totally.
So a
Yeah.
lot of this is like from that perspective. Okay. I think if you're spending more, so for you, sounds like up until this point, where maybe fairly recently you're a whale, right? You're spending what, a couple grand a month, maybe, and then now you
Yeah.
want to like kind of
Yeah.
like go back a little bit, maybe more of like a high mid spender, maybe off season. $500-600 a month, and maybe maybe if some events come up, or maybe when you get to KVK4 there's Crystal Tech, it'll probably be about $1,000, maybe a little over, right? So kind of that range.
Yeah,
Um,
correct.
the way to kind of combat that without sending your account back, you have to go with equipment. Okay, so the commanders are the commanders, right? So right now you have Mina expertise, Charles Martel expertise, Mehmed 5411, Sun Tzu, YSG, right? And then some of these other commanders like Richard, you're not going to use in KVK2. El Cid, you could get away with using KVK2. Mehmed, really mid until you get his museum. But Mehmed, for people that kind of get past KVK6, for your spend, you're probably never going to use him again. And the biggest problem with Mehmed is that he has no march speed. So if you want to run him as a secondary, you can only run him as a secondary to calves in the endgame, right? Because if you run him, say, behind Scipio, which a lot of people do, like KVK 4 or 5, like you could do it, but it's just really slow, right? And then if you start getting into archers and stuff, it's like, in theory, the museum sounds really good, and content creators love to talk about how great the museum it is, and it is, but that's actually one where I wish I didn't invest in. Whereas YSG is one I'm still going to use, and especially with more and more artifact KVKs and stuff, like that's one where that museum to me is worth it, right? Because even this new museum coming out, originally his kit was 50% skill damage, right? You bumped it up to 55, and then now with the second museum, it's going to be 62%. Like it's really good.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's really good. It's almost like I thought he was dead, and he's back, and like just with the way kind of like the meta is now, like you need a way to increase skill damage. And then like if you think about infantry, right? Infantry especially have the toughest time doing that. If you have an artifact KVK, Scipio YSG is ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and I will run that over Kuang any day of the week, right? And I first even thought about it because like I think I saw a 12-inch video maybe about a year ago, in KVK 4 or 5 or something. He was running that without the artifact, and he was saying it was doing really well. So it was kind of on my radar. And this last KVK with the artifact, I tried it, and it was doing really well. Like for a while, it was actually my best trading March, even better than Lucia Alex. And then it got a little bit more sample size and kind of fell in place behind it, but it was really good. And I tried Gen YSG for my cap March, right, with the artifact, and that did better. Just like the amount of output stats wise, like getting 7 wounds trades, better than any other cap March I tried rolling out there. Okay, so very long-winded way of saying, like, you already have enough commanders that you need until you get to KVK3. I would not put a single gold head into another commander.
Okay.
Like you have more than enough. All right. So like right now, how many gold heads do you have saved up?
Not a whole ton. I guess I could have looked at it in that view, but 97? Currently 97. Okay. Karak's Humility just finished. I don't think I've collected the I think it's 9 heads for the difficulty that we're at. So just add it to that. So not a whole ton currently.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, you're still in KVK1, right? So by the time you get to KVK3, so at your so our spending range is about the same, right? And maybe there's a couple things that are a little off, right? Just with like just because like my account's like further along as far as the commanders and stuff. I'm not sure, but I was calculating when I diverted essentially all my spending into gold heads or commanders. I was getting about 450 gold heads worth per month, right? But that's also like maxing the wheel and everything. You're not going to max the wheel, obviously, right? So it's going to be lower, but you should actually be able to accumulate quite a bit. Okay, so just like I don't know if you noticed this when you were leveling up your city hall or like the buildings. It sounded like you spent a lot more, so I don't know if you had to deal with this, but when you first start out, right, everything's just easy. You just do whatever and you just upgrade it, right? Then you actually reach a bottleneck with resources. Then you actually reach a bottleneck with speeds. And then you actually go back to a bottleneck with resources. And then you get to 25, right? And like I'm very familiar with this because I'm trying to get like all 8 of my farms to level City Hall 25 right now. So like, like whatever I went through like early game, I'm like, oh shit, like I I remember that being annoying, and it is still a thing, right? Like, but like at different points, there's different bottlenecks. Okay, so to plan ahead for you, first bottleneck you're really gonna encounter is gonna be gold heads, right? So Jackie, so when I was messaging him yesterday or the day before, right, and you know, I did a mentoring session with him, and he was pretty reckless of his gold heads. Okay, so he was pretty reckless of his gold heads.
He expertise what, Julius Caesar?
Yeah, he's like, I can't help it. Yeah, he was like, it was like Frederick. I don't even know if he did Frederick, you know, even whatever. But it was just like, I'm like, holy shit, right? But
yeah,
that's also a whole different spend level, right? Like that's
totally
Kraken level spending. But I told him at the time, I'm like, listen, like when you get to KVK 3, you're gonna be like, damn, like I really wish I had more gold heads. And for someone like that was kind of emotional and investing like him, right? Just because, you know, the drama and the heat of the moment, he really wanted to win. It's even more frustrating because you know, like these guys aren't even necessarily that good, but you just don't have enough gold heads to actually keep up with them. Okay, so right now, the thing to prepare for is don't spend any gold heads. And then you already kind of mentioned this in your goals, is you want 3 sets of good equipment heading into KVK 3, right?
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, or fortunately for people, KVK 3 is quote unquote the most boring KVK, right? Like I just streamed it.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, essentially, if someone doesn't want to fight you, they can avoid fighting you until Kingsland. Right, because you kind of move into the zones or something, but you just get fights and ruins and altars until Kingsland opens, and then it's like a tiny ass Kingsland, and usually that fight is over really quick. So there's just not a lot of fighting there. Right.
Okay.
Now, so really, what you're looking at is, okay, how do you kind of really enjoy KVK 2? I assume you had a good time in KVK 1, or was it just too one-sided?
It was honest. So I'll give you the synopsis. I haven't made the complete video on it yet, so this is a little spoiler to the actual content, but I think that's okay.
Okay.
We had one ruins fight, or the main competition in our KVK. I guess I'll zoom out. The main competition in the map was 72. Up here is 69. Honestly, just too low power of a kingdom. They had one T5. Not very good at budgeting their resources. Us in the top right for 70, and then 71 down here. The only fight we had was one ruins fight here. We fought once. 71 got destroyed. I was pretty active with messaging 71's king, and he pretty much told me honestly, he was like, hey, like we're not fighting in ruins anymore. It hurts us too much.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys in zone 6. Zone 6 came, this zone. I got another message from him and said, still no, we're not fighting you because we don't have the resources to do it. We'll meet you in Kingsland.
Are you the king of your kingdom? Forgot to ask.
I am not the king. I am part of the High Council, if you will. So I guess you could say I'm part of the king. Yeah. So you could say like part of the kings, I guess.
Okay. Not good.
But and then 69 didn't fight us at all in any of the zones. So really the big fight, because 72 was our main contender, our main opponent for us, was Kingsland. Kingsland was going to be the big fight. And so the only other fighting we had was for altars. And we fought once in altars, and that was tons of fun. Really enjoyed that. And then, like I said, Kingsland was 28 hours. So my KP goal for this KVK was initially 500 million. And I'm like pretty far behind on that. With Zone Invasion, I'm hoping to bump it up to at least 400 million and get the 25 million kill achievement, because I only need 2 million more for that. But largely it's been a barb chaining and farming simulator KVK.
Okay, so the good news is because there's a lot more kingdoms in KVK 2, the potential for like more fighting, like out of the KVK 1, 2, and 3, the one where you should get the best fighting is KVK 2. Right. Like you know, it's like a probability, not a guarantee. So for you, like, so for example, right, I had 5 sets of equipment in KVK3. I could only use like 2 of it, right? So like when I was in KVK3, it was the first time when I realized like, oh, I messed up. Now I messed up for KVK3. By KVK4 I could use it, right? But in retrospect, the way I would have wanted to build it was I would want one set to get to a better place first before I build the other set. What kind of something that impacted my decision making is I'm a Canyon nerd, right? I like tinkering in Canyon and figuring stuff out. And in Canyon, you want 5 sets of equipment. So I'm like, oh, I'll just do 5 sets of equipment. I also didn't start spending until halfway through KVK1, right? And then like, you know, like any noob, like that was just my native account. I didn't make any really bad mistakes, but like if I didn't spend until halfway through KVK1, right? Like I didn't buy any like Vanquisher bundles, right? Like I didn't buy any the pop-ups for any time I unlocked a commander. So it was, you know, I didn't know what I didn't know. So even though like the spending range probably is about similar to what you would look for now, obviously, you know, I just didn't capitalize on all that stuff, and the account was probably behind for what a mid spender should be in KVK 2 and 3. Okay, so for you, I think 3 sets of equipment is actually it's like a I wouldn't even call it a aggressive goal. I think that's actually a proper goal. Okay, and for
that's
this,
good to hear.
Yeah, so like for this right now, I would not try to special talent any equipment. Okay, so to special, I mean, if you get a natural crit, that's amazing. But if you try to special talent it, the amount of materials, which by the way, it's going to lead to the next thing, because once you catch up in equipment, then the huge bottleneck is going to be material. Okay, so if you're trying to special talent it, like right, potentially have the material cost times 4 if you're really unlucky to crit it. The amount of like mats, never mind the blueprints that you're going to have to dump into it just to get, you know, a 30 quote unquote 30% increase, it's not worth it, right? Especially given the bottleneck you're gonna hit after you catch up in commanders. Okay, so if you want to kind of prepare, right? I'm KVK 2 and 3. I'm gonna give kind of like a more big picture, and then we could talk the specifics. KVK 2, it's just you want to get your equipment better. Like you're naturally going to work on it anyway. Like don't spend any gold heads on any commanders, and just getting the equipment to a good enough place, you'll actually be able to compete with the cross-season migrants. Okay, like you're not gonna just be able to march into like a ball of like 30 marches and still somehow end up trading positive after you get sad face like you can in KVK1. Right. Like, I'm sorry, but like you're actually gonna need.
I love doing that.
Yeah, you're actually gonna need some skill now. And like I know that because I see like sometimes I see like whales, KVK1 whales post their highlight vids, right? And it's just like imagine if you're watching like a high school like football highlight reel or something, and the guy's just doing everything wrong, but he's just so much more athletic. He's just getting away with it. Right? Like that's what I see usually with highlight clips from like KVK1 whales. Okay, in KVK2, really like the cross season migrants, right? They won't have any season of conquest stuff. So your commanders are going to be on par with theirs. Your equipment is going to be on par with theirs. Right? It just there'll be more people that have had more time. So like you'll still be one of the top players. You just won't be absolutely dominant like a KVK1 whale.
Totally.
Okay? Now KVK3, my boy Jackie is experiencing this right now. That's a whole different story, because now there's endgame commanders, right? Now, I don't think they have access to Season of Conquest equipment yet, but with the endgame commanders, it completely changes everything, because the power level of the endgame commanders is just so much higher. It just, even if you had saved everything up, right? Even if you didn't do what he did, right? Like you still have to wait for the wheel to come out to get the commander. Like this guy, literally, he told me he ended up spending 600,000 gems on sovereign keys just so he could unlock Scipio sooner than until the infantry wheel comes out, just so he could have them a little bit earlier, right? Like so.
Jackie's built different.
Yeah. So
He was
so
wild.
like, if you know, you understand like I mean, you already went through KVK3, right? But the cav wheel comes out first, and then the infantry
Yeah.
wheel, which is like, if I understand correctly, like a little bit before Kinsland, or like when Pass 7 opens or something like that. It's pretty far along into the KVK, and then by the time you actually have access to archers, KVK is pretty much over,
Mm-hmm.
right? So kind of like whenever I'm coaching the younger accounts, right, and kind of the struggle they have is other people are just going in and getting Nevsky and Joan or something, right? And then they're trying to hold off for the infantry, because infantry, since I've been doing this mentoring stuff, has been kind of what you're supposed to wait for. But the people that went calves early have a huge advantage, right? In the ruins, really. And like, it's just like, it's really,
Yeah.
really frustrating. Okay, so
Totally.
I always thought, okay, what's the way to mitigate that, right? If you get your equipment to a really good place, right, and you're running, say, like Mina YSG or something in KVK3, you'll at least be competitive, but you're not really sending your account back, right?
Okay.
But if you end up being like, oh, screw it, you know, like I can't take this anymore, let me just spend these gold heads on Hua or Nevsky and Joan, right, just so I have a competitive march in ruins with everyone else. One, it's not guaranteed you're gonna even get that much fighting anyways, and also like going, for example, for Joan instead of Luchette will actually set your account back more when you head into like KVK 4 and 5, right? Because that's something that'll be a lot more noticeable. Because once you used up those gold heads, yeah, you save once you get to KVK 3, right? Depending on your spend, like, so Jackie could probably recover in like a month or two. It's not no big deal for him, right? Like temporary like frustration. By the next KVK, he'll catch up. But if you're not that level of spend, now you're talking about maybe 2 KVKs where you'll feel the effect of that, as opposed to say like a month. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So like, big thing is KVK 2, right? Let the equipment and the commanders you already have there more than good enough to compete, like be near the top in KVK 2. And then in KVK 3, don't like, again, you let the equipment carry you. But then like invest in the commanders you're supposed to invest in. So right now, right, if I had to give like an order, right, the first one you want is Lucha, like by far. And obviously you need to find someone to pair with him. I already given my opinion on William Wallace, right? If you haven't invested in Scipio, it's William Wallace. Scipio's better commander. William Wallace pairs better with Lucha, I think, by quite a bit, like 20%, right? But that's just theory crafting until it comes out. Right? If you want to move off of that, and actually the second best invest would actually be Herman. I like Herman better than ZL because Herman has march speed, and his kit is a little bit more future proof than ZL, right? So like ZL, for example, can't pair with YSG, right? Unless you're in some kind of KVK where you could add a lot of march speed to him. If you try to pair him with Boudica, that march still feels a little bit too slow. Whereas when you have 15% march speed already built in, you increase skill damage, you have an AoE, you have a debuff, you bring a decent amount of tankiness. Like, he's kind of like the Scipio of archers. Right? Now, for you though, by the time you get to a point where you make that decision, you already should know what the next archer is going to be, or should be pretty close. Right, so like by the time you get there, I actually wouldn't invest in Herman, just because you kind of want to know what the next archer is before you invest in it.
Totally.
Right, so that's why I like Lucha is like the slam dunk for you in KVK 3. Okay, now in the early game right now, the accessory that, like, if you do craft an accessory, it should be a dagger. Right now, the conventional wisdom for everyone is ring's the best, right? And then horn. Some people like horn more, they'll argue, and then just ring and horn for everyone. Okay, if you look back a little further, I don't know if you're familiar with Wick Gaming. Okay, so with Wick Gaming, right, his thing was he liked the dagger the most. Okay, so if you look at the dagger, 30% chance for a 5% health debuff, right? And then it could stack 3 times. So if you do a dagger, you can't just run one dagger, because the probability isn't going to be high enough where you can get the max stack of that health debuff. Okay, so I haven't made a video about this purposely, just because I I don't like doing math for people all the time, right? But I'll tell you now, based on my
Yeah.
calculations, Scipio's 30% health debuff. If you're running kind of like a medium-ish in-game equipment for infantry, for me, I think it'll come out to about like high teen percentage, like about like 18%, somewhere around there. Because it depends on armaments and then kind of the choice they made with equipment too. But if it's this kind of the standard, you're thinking about 18% more damage taken when you get the 30% health debuff. And then for Cavs, because inherently in-game equipment, there's more health there, it'll probably be around like 15 or 14%. Okay, so if you have a 30% health debuff, right, somewhere between like 14 and 18% extra damage taken for 3 seconds, which is really good.
Mhm.
Right now, when you have 15% for the dagger, you don't just cut that in half, because the more health you decrease, right, or the delta or the differential between the health and the defense increases, the effect of that health debuff actually gets higher. So if I had to take a guess for a 15% dagger, I'm thinking somewhere between like 5 to 7%, depending on the troop type you're hitting. If you get 3 stacks, okay. Now, is that clearly better than a ring or a horn? I don't know, because there's too many moving parts. But all I know is if
Right.
you do invest in a dagger, you don't do one, you do at least two. Because if you do at least two every single turn, you have a 51% chance of adding a stack, right? And essentially, you have 3 seconds to add another stack. So you have about an 89% chance to add another stack in 3 turns every time. So for me, that's worth it, right? Whereas if you go three horns, I mean 3 daggers, that percentage will go up a lot more. But now there's, an extra slot where you're just kind of doubling down or tripling down in this case on the dagger, as opposed to say going a horn or something. Okay. So me personally, because now I have 7 marches, I'm my end game is going to run 2 daggers, right? If you are running 5 marches, I think my gut feeling is the math is still worth it to run 2 daggers in your 5 march. If you're running less than 5 marches, I don't think you should run 2 daggers. Okay, now I'm telling you all this because you could actually craft the dagger now. So if your plan is to run 5, 6, or 7 marches in the future, then that's something you can consider, right? And then now, not only do you have like all legendary, but you can also have in-game accessories to go with it.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah, I think so. So I guess for my context wise, in terms of like equipment, do you think I should, because I agree, my at least the way, I can't remember what video,
Yeah.
it might have been a Spartan gaming video.
I love Spartans,
But
by the way.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's my
was
boy.
either Omnia, to be honest, where I heard this and I've kind of just like kept the thought where, in terms of equipment, like focus on getting all legendary equipment to begin with, iconicize it as you go, and until every single one of your equipment sets for like your basic 3 marches has everything iconicized, then you can start working at doing like talenting those equipments. Is that something that you agree with, or
So
no, and why?
so if you're looking through like these like videos, right, through the archives, you have to understand like iconic crystals wasn't released until a certain time, right? So a lot of the like
Yeah.
the advice before and after the iconic crystal should be different. And then like more recently, we had the awaken system come out where you could awaken 5. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I made a video about this recently. I don't know how it is for you, and I actually don't know this in like KVK1, 2, and 3, but like for us, right? There's really no reliable way to get iconic crystals other than KVK. And every KVK, if you hit the achievements, do everything you're supposed to, you could get 5 iconic crystals.
Okay,
So
you can get a ton.
yeah, you say a ton, right? But like the rate, so right now, like, and I'm telling you this because this is what you can expect once you catch up in equipment. If you divert all your spend into equipment, or essentially mats, mats are the bottleneck for me, not blueprints, and it'll be like that for you as a younger in-game account for a while, right?
Mhm.
I'm getting enough mats to almost craft 1 legendary a week, right? Probably like every like 10 days.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, but that's like everything is almost going into equipment, and then almost a month, a little less than a month to craft one accessory.
Oh,
Okay,
okay, gotcha.
so
Yeah, yeah.
if that's the case, right? Let's just say I'm just crafting the regular pieces. That like 5 iconic every KVK is not fast enough to keep up with that,
Right.
because just KVK itself is 2 months or like about 60 days, right? A little less, and then there's off season, right? So like what should be happening then is you're gonna craft legendary a lot faster than the iconic crystals can keep up, and then one way I'm trying to kind of uh, uh, keep pace with that, if you will, is to actually finish my accessories first. Because if you actually look at some of the earlier game videos before Iconics came out, a lot of the content creators were actually recommending you just stay at the epic tier, because you can imagine there's a legendary and there's no way to put an iconic crystal on it. Never mind the awaken system. Straight up, some of the epics were better than the legendary, and even if the legendary was better, the amount of mass you need to spend to upgrade versus the actual like statistical improvement wasn't worth it. Right, so I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to make you feel bad because you already did it and it's really not that big of a deal. But in this case, on the screen here, I would have just left the Heart of the Saint. Right, like if there was, if I had to
Okay.
tell you the stuff to actually update last from epic to legendary, Heart of the Saint will probably be second to last for me, and then the Eternal Night would be the last.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Yeah.
then even for archers, it would be the Golden Age. Right, so actually the 3 weapons also like the items that cost a little bit more than the regular pieces, but less than the accessory.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so
That, yeah, that's fair. I think the reason, because I mean, I'm showing now, I still have Heart of the Saint
mhm.
because I know it is a very good piece
Oh, there you go.
for
Okay,
building out
yeah,
like a future
yeah, yeah,
a future cab set.
yeah. Oh, perfect. Yeah,
But me and another T5 player, we're pretty much running like simulations in the Rock Battle Simulator
yeah,
against the uh the Archer main T5 player
yeah,
from Kingdom
yeah.
3471, and we found that I got better trades with the legendary weapon compared to the epic one.
Right.
And because I had the best set of cavalry gear
Yeah.
in my double C, funnily enough, I accidentally expertised my double C last night.
What?
I,
Accidentally?
I accidentally
Like you clicked
yeah,
it by accident? Okay.
legitimately
Okay.
accidentally, I came in here, I was trying to read the skill,
Yeah.
and so I came into skills and I tapped it
Yeah.
because I wanted to read it, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
at expertise, yeah, I was not a happy camper about
I
that.
think you don't have any skill resets yet.
uh I guess that you can't reset it if
Oh, once
it's
it's max, you
expertise.
can't reset it.
Yeah,
It's
I
fine.
guess not.
It's
That's
not.
okay though.
It's not that big of a deal. I mean,
Yeah,
double
yeah,
C.
but,
At most, you'll use them in KVK2.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting to use them a whole ton past this
Okay.
point, but we just found that essentially like I traded better with the legendary weapon, and all the other garrison players have hard focused infantry,
Yeah.
and so they didn't have as good of cavalry equipment as me, and
Yeah.
were T5 players.
Yeah.
Because there was some T4 players who had like the exact same equipment set, but they weren't
Yeah.
T5. And so I didn't want to, but for the sake of the kingdom,
Yeah.
so we could trade a little bit better against that player, I
Yeah. I
crafted the
mean,
weapon. That way
to
I
be
could
to
garrison
be fair,
with
the math for Rally Garrison is also a little bit different for open fielding.
Mhm.
Like staying power on the field is something that's kind of overrated, right? That's actually one of the main argument, or there's 2 main arguments for going health and defense over attack, right? Because the damage output scales with your troop capacity, right?
Mhm.
So and your attack.
Yeah.
So if you have a way where every time you're taking damage, you're taking less damage, right? It will keep your troop capacity higher for longer, which in turn actually leads to more damage output on the field, right?
Right.
Now, in a rally garrison context, it's just straight trades, right? You against the other person, right? And then like whoever trades better, and then right, obviously when you're filling troops, it's kind of like gas, right? Like so one side is more efficient, like gas wise, it doesn't mean they'll necessarily win. It just means like to win the rally or the garrison against the other side, you're going to expend less troops, right? But ultimately, what actually determines that is whoever controls open field, and then secondarily from there, whoever actually can fill up enough troops, right? But open field is actually like field control is actually king. So let's just say in a rally or garrison context, like it trades better, and you want to do it's not that big of a deal, right? It's not that big of a deal, but just for open fielding, that's kind of like the thought behind it. And I've never done rally garrison, so everything I do, I view it through the open fielding context.
Totally. Yeah. I think that's fair.
Yeah. So, like, one, you have to decide, right? Like, do you want to actually do a dagger? And if you do, you have a chance to actually just craft 2 right now, right? If not, then obviously just finish the legendaries first. Now for the infantry, you know, avoid the Eternal Knight. The Eternal Knight, you need Awaken 2 for it to even be better than the special talented Karak's Humility.
Yeah, that I know.
Yeah. Okay.
I know that's the last piece to upgrade for infantry.
Now, for you, right, the kind of like a potential trap is, what are you going to do with your 3rd set? Are you going to craft an archer set, or are you going to craft a 2nd infantry or cav set?
Yeah. So my current plan right now is to do an archer set. That way I take advantage of when armaments come out, the randomness and the variability.
He said I accidentally pressed the mute button on my headphones.
No worries.
What's your current plans?
Yeah, so my current plans is to essentially have an archer, infantry, and cavalry set, each legendary, and then from there, I guess depending on how quick I'm expertising and what the meta commanders are by the time I get to Season of Conquest, pivoting into like building out another cavalry set or another archer set. It also just depends on how quick I can build the sets. But my honest plan with infantry is, because at least here in the lower KVKs, you can only get 1 guaranteed iconic crystal from the shop. It just so happened we had that hammer event, not the dig event, but the actual like hammer event, that you could buy 2 more iconic crystals from. And so my plan was essentially to, at least for infantry, is to craft the set helm, although it doesn't pair, or it doesn't, I'm not getting any kind of bonus because I only have 1 set piece. But craft the set helm here for my infantry, and then just start working on archers, because I can't put any iconics into these slots anyways until next KVK. And the stats wise for the gloves, the pants, and the boots, from what I remember, are actually the exact same with the special talented for the legendary pieces. But if I can't iconicize them, it's just a waste of materials to me.
What I would actually recommend for you is actually to finish the infantry set besides the legs. Here's the reason why. Because realistically, you're not going to be using archers until KVK 4. Okay.
That's fair.
Whereas like in KVK 2 and 3, right, like you want that to be as good of a place as possible. In KVK 3, honestly, it'll like, however far you can get on the archers, and then what archers are you going to use, right? You're going to run El Cid with YSG, 5511 El Cid. Oh, it'll probably be a little higher by then, right? Just from gold keys and stuff. But that's probably, looking at this, that's probably where I would go, right? So, and actually no, I lied. You're not going to run that way YSG, because you're going to have YSG as a secondary, probably behind a cav or a infantry for at least like a third, a half of the KVK. Right. So like it's good to have that goal for the equipment, but it's just like KVK 3, and how much fighting are you going to get? Right. So if you are going to get fighting, right, until Kingsland, it's going to be 1 March. Right. So, and then usually for 1 March and a ruin or altar, right, you want to bring one in, and then you want the other one by the pass, so you can rotate it in, right, minimize downtime. But you can do that with 2. You don't need 3. Right. So the goal, it's cool to have the goal for 3, but realistically, you definitely want 2.
And I have for infantry, I do have the blueprints for the helm. I said that in the in the email to you. I also have the
Yeah.
boots, and then
Perfect.
I'm like 18 of 30 on the gloves.
Yeah.
Do I just do helm, gloves, and boots, and then be done, and keep the pants and weapon for now, or should I go for the weapon?
I would go for the weapon
The
too.
step
Just do the
weapon.
4-piece. Yeah. So,
Okay.
uh, I mean, I know you're not gonna have the iconic crystals and stuff, right? But it's
Hmm.
it's just one of those where it. I think just get it done. Um,
Totally.
what given what I told you about Dagger, do you know which like? Well, first, how many marches do you want to run like end game wise?
I mean, ultimately, I think like because equipment will be a bottleneck, I'd love to have 5 marches
Okay.
fielding, and
Okay.
then as I get farther and farther along, even if
Maybe.
my crystal, even if I
Yeah.
max out my crystal tech and I can run 7 marches, I probably won't be doing 7 marches because I don't
Yeah.
want to run a subpar march with no equipment or like blue equipment.
Yeah.
So by season of conquest, maybe like KVK, I guess
4,
five,
5. Okay.
4, yeah, or yeah, I guess 4 is season of conquest, huh?
Okay. 5 marches.
Yeah, I'd
Okay.
like to,
Okay. And then what about a?
but I
Go ahead.
I just don't know if I'll have the commanders like for it at that point.
It took me about 2 KVKs to catch up in commanders. So I got end game commanders in KVK 4, and then
Mm-hmm.
by like halfway through KVK 6, for the most part, I was caught up. I think,
Okay.
and I was running 6 marches, right? So I think right after KVK 6, that wasn't when I maxed my Herman, and that was kind of like the last commander that I needed to max to catch up for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not ahead on gold heads right now, right? Just because I decided to go the siege route, so that's adding the 7th march.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Which or think like one commander I did 180 gold heads, right? 5511. The other one, Cordoba, I'm like 70 away from maxing. Like I could max them. I'm just wanting to use the wheel to do it too to help out. But
Totally.
if I didn't have that for 6 marches, it would have been like a little bit after 2 KVKs from when I first had access to them. So like
Okay.
with what you're spending, I think that's kind of like reasonable to expect. Now, not having said that, I spent very little going towards materials during that time, and I spent
Mm-hmm.
almost everything going into spinning the wheel and gold heads and stuff.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I just
And I
like,
guess
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say my philosophy is I what you've been saying has kind of been my plan for spending is at this point because I'm tier 5, I feel like I have a decent amount of speeds is unless there's a holiday bundle, which is really good on speeds and
Yeah,
for the price. All I've been spending on is like your typical like low spend stuff, gem supply, material supply,
yeah.
lucerne, and then like daily special offer. I guess maybe mid spender is how you might
No,
say that
you're a mid spender.
for yeah, that would be
Yeah,
like mid spender. And then for like dig event, I'll full buy that bundle. Any essentially equipment event that comes out, I full buy the bundle.
yeah,
Just because my focus is like, okay, well, I'm at T5. I know I'm going to become a smaller fish come cross season migration. So
yeah,
let's just focus solely on equipment.
yeah.
Um,
No, obviously there's armaments, right? So armaments is the funny
yeah.
thing. Like
Oh
when
man, I
when
forgot.
In Search of Wonders come out, right? I've actually max purchased it the first 2 times, and it
Hmm.
tells you something that since armaments have come out, there's only been 2 in Search of Wonders that I can remember, right? But I max purchased it both times.
Okay.
If there was a time to purchase it, it would actually be when you first get like the later on you get with armaments, the potential jump that you'll get from that event is lower.
Right.
Right. So like if you do spend on armaments, that's actually one where just because of the nature of it, in Search of Wonders, like I don't think I'm here in KVK1, so this one that's supposed to come out, it's called like Reveal Thyself. I don't think you'll get that. But
Yeah, probably not, unfortunately.
yeah, but like armaments is one where when you first get it, you do want to spend on it just because you'll quickly be able to get it to a decent place, right? And then from
Okay.
there, you can actually cut back on the spending, right? Whereas
Okay.
when KVK3 first. Once you get into KVK3, and then like from the dailies to like the dailies, you can get Nevsky and Scipio, right? Like if you're gonna do the dailies, I would do. I would actually do for you. I would do Nevsky, right? Just because if you plan on doing Lucio, William Wallace, then Scipio is someone you want to get, but you need you need two commanders to do a pair, right? Like and essentially almost all of these commanders you have right now go by the wayside, besides maybe YSG right now, and I'm still using Minamoto, and people always make fun of me. Right, if I'm Minamoto William, I have the report manager, I'm showing it, it's holding its own, right? It's definitely like my weakest commander out of the all 7 that I'm running, all 7 marches that I'm running, but it's actually viable with a double museum. But when you get into KVK3, I would be very careful with the museum, like because a museum is one where unless they change it, right, and they could always change it. It's one where there's some event where it's kind of like the Lucian scrolls. You'll get X amount of relic coins, right? And they're very, very expensive if you want to actually buy them. And then the only other way to get them is when you do the dailies, right? Like when you complete the first one, like the 10 out of 100 and then the 100 out of 100, you get, I want to say like 22 or 23 a day, right? And that's it. And there's no other events where you could get them. But they're starting to release like more and more commanders, and it's really, really frustrating for higher spenders that I'm talking to, because for example, if you're in a non-artifact KVK, right, like right now the best garrison is probably Gorgo Constantine, right? Well, Constantine has a double museum that just came out. You need museum relics to invest in that. But then what about when people are running Lucia Alex, right? You need to double museum him, or right? It's just like all of a sudden, like what if you're in an artifact KVK and you want to do Gorgo Attila, right? And now he has a relic. So it's one of those where people are actually starting to really feel the squeeze. Even the people that got to SOC a lot earlier, because when museums first came out, you could do a $5 kind of bundle essentially, where like every day you get some for a week or some crap like that, right? They took that away. They took away like they took away all these ways to get relic coins. Then they started upping the rate in which we're releasing museums for commanders. It's actually the thing that Lilith is doing that like pisses me off the most. Like a lot of the other stuff people complain about, I actually get why they're doing it. This to me, one, doesn't make the game better, and like it just straight up feels like a money grab, and it's not even like a well-designed money grab, and that's kind of frustrating for me. So like for example, like right now, right? Like right now, if you get to KVK3 and museums unlock, I actually would probably tell you to not invest in the museum and anyone, maybe besides YSG.
Okay.
Right, just because like the Mina one for me it worked just because I'm still using him. Right, but like to like invest that museum in Mina for someone like you're, probably gonna do like 2 KVKs with at most, then he's gonna fall off, and then that relic you can't get back, and then this rate in which they're releasing the relic and you're gonna be starved for it. Like it's kind of like the joke I was talking about earlier, telling Jackie he's gonna be starved for gold heads, right? Like I wish I knew this when I first got to KVK4. I would, I put a museum on 1 out of the 2 on Charles Martel, right? Like knowing what I know now, I wish I didn't do that. I wish I didn't put it on McMed. Like I would have just ran Ethel instead, and it's just worse. But with like the museum that I wish, the relic coins I wish I had now, I wish I didn't do that. Okay, so big picture for you right now, like the hammer event, like the Esmeralda's prayers, things like Dalrooks, or like things like that where you could get mats, right? Invest in those.
Okay.
And then there's nothing to really buy in the dailies, right? Like I don't really nothing until KVK3. There's nothing to really buy in the dailies for you. Let me see what you have.
Yeah, there's not many options. I'm going with MetMed right now just to get them 5511, and then
if you want to do that, it's fine. But like MechMed 5511, like you're only doing that because you want to invest in the museum, right? And it's like a kind of like a band-aid solution for 1.5, 2 KVKs. It's just something where Standing like kind of where I'm at now, I would actually not do it. But I get it when you went to KVK3. Like he's a good secondary in KVK3, especially with a museum,
Mhm.
right?
Totally.
But just know like that's kind of like what you're going to be feeling maybe like 6 months after that. But in KVK3, I
Yeah.
would just feel like you need it, right? But if you can make up
I
for
think
it with equipment, then the pain of this goes down a lot more.
fair. I think largely because I have double C
Yeah,
maxed and then Martell maxed. It's like, okay, well, who can I buy in the daily special offer? It's like, okay, well, I can do Mehmed 5511, and then by the time maybe I get him to 5511, I think he
yeah,
needs like 35 more sculptures. So
yeah,
we'll
yeah,
see how quick that happens. I was just gonna like keep buying Richard, even though I know he doesn't really have a role
yeah.
later on. Um, like just somebody to buy sculptures for. I know Pyrus is like another option people talk
Yeah,
about,
I mean,
but
I don't know if you
I don't
like,
really care for Pyrus.
I don't know if you really like Canyon, but for me, Constantine was a guy. Like whenever I need to work on someone
Yeah,
else, I work on someone else. Once I ran out of someone, I would come back to Constantine. You know, but
yeah.
I like Canyon, so that's not a thing for everyone. But
Hmm.
in general, with the spending, right? Uh, it's more like the events, like I talked about, like as like like whatever to get gems, and you're saving the gems to do the equipment. Once KVK3 starts, again, this depends on how much you spend, right? But if the priority should actually be going towards the wheel for everything. So everything is how do you get more
Hmm.
gold heads? How do you advance your commanders faster, right?
Hmm.
And then minimize on the equipment, and then just know like when armaments are first available, any amount of money you spend on armaments, you're gonna get a huge boost. So like I would
Okay.
actually do the armaments to just at a decent place, and decent place actually means having good inscriptions more than the stats.
Okay.
Okay, because like 3.5 attack, you're like whatever, right? It's like just 3.5 attack, but if you get a 3.5 attack on the actual armament, you're like, holy shit, this is a god tier armament. So like ideally, obviously, you have no relevant stats, but like if you have the inscription too, especially if it's legendary, down the road, like as you're re-rolling it, it'll end up falling into place. But really, like what you want is like good inscriptions on legendary.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
And then like starting out, I'm actually gonna make this recommendation. I would actually just pull Arch.
You think so?
I think I would actually just
Instead of
pull Arch.
Wedge?
I would just pull Arch instead of Wedge.
Oh, okay.
I if I could go back, I would actually do Arch instead of Wedge. So the this whole idea that like skill damage is so good. Well, one, there's smite damage now, right? So like for sure for infantry, you want Arch anyways. But like what
Right.
I
Right.
realized more recently is like because there's so much skill damage mitigation, um, uh, it's almost like okay, when you do launch the active skill, yes, you're gonna get more benefit from that 5% skill damage increase, right? But like with the Arch, anytime you make contact, uh, you're benefiting from that, right? And
Yeah.
it's just to me, not only is it a more future proof, because no matter what they do to commanders, they're going to be doing normal damage, right? They're going to do a basic attack, counter attack, right? Whereas like
Yeah.
there's all these like funky things that like with skill damage and stuff, where that's why like I never invested in the Twilight Falls, because you're losing 10% infantry attack, right, to gain 5% skill damage. Well, now I have at least one March, potentially two in the future, that won't benefit from that. Right. So
Yeah.
like Twilight Falls was a thing when there was no smite damage. Once there's smite damage, like the attack for smite damage commander, because of some of the boosts and normal like the boost will actually benefit like your attack will actually count for more for smite damage commander than a skill damage commander, and then you're literally taking away attack from an infantry. To me, it's just not worth it.
Okay. That makes
Okay.
sense.
So
I
like
am.
go
I
ahead.
should be getting Twilight Falls,
Yeah.
as well from.
Oh yeah, from the honor or something. I mean, we get it for free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. From
Yeah.
the honor. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my main focus has been like I didn't do anything with Marauders. I got all my pre KVK points from
Yeah.
training.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And I've just dumped all my AP. I still have like 100,000
Okay.
more AP to
Yeah.
use.
Yeah, like even like yeah, it's not like it's not bad. It's just like if I had a Twilight Falls right now, I wouldn't even use it over just a normal increase. I try to increase the archer health by 5% or infantry health,
Mhm.
right? Obviously, and then you just lose like 5% attack off of like calves or something.
Yeah,
Right? Like it's just
which
standard. Yeah,
that was going to be a question. So I did win the Archer Health Xena skin,
yeah,
and so like your recommendation so far has been like focusing infantry when I get it, maybe taking a hit in KVK3 with like the first ruins and altars fight,
yeah,
because people who got cav will just have those better commanders than I do.
yeah.
um what should I do about Archer? Like I got the skin largely because one, I wanted to push a bunch of power for KVK1
Yeah.
to kill a bunch of troops because I thought we were going to get more fighting. And then two, I saw it as like a long-term investment because of how good archers were, but largely they're attack focused, not health focused.
Yeah.
And so like, do you have any recommendations, I guess, in terms of archers then? Like, do I
So
do I do like infantry and then archers because of the city skin, or is it kind of like, hey, you have the city skin, that's nice,
I wouldn't
but
change your investment order based on the city skin you have. So
okay.
this is a dude, this is a smaller YouTube channel. I'm not even gonna say his name, right? But his thing is like you need to hyper specialize, and like for people you need to run like you need to focus on one troop type, which is like absolutely ludicrous to me. Okay, so really like the math you're talking about there.
Mm-hmm.
Just think the first pairing of a troop type, right, compared to the second best. So in infantry right now, it's Luce Alex, right, or Gorgo Luce or Scipio Luce, right, one of the three. And then the second,
Mm-hmm.
largely agreed upon, is going to be Guan Scipio. If you're going to do two, you're going to do Gorgo or Alex or Luce, and then Guan Skip, right?
Right.
The argument is okay, if you go one troop type, your civilization buff, your special unit, and your um, city skin can benefit all of them, right? Like people were making that suggestion three plus years ago because the power creep level wasn't as ridiculous as it is now, right? But if you think,
Right.
okay, we're gonna take Guan Scipio, which I'm not sure if you actually used them. At one point, in my opinion, the best March in the game. It feels just so outdated now, and I think the biggest reason is just because between the two of them, uh, you have a guaranteed 10% skill damage increase, and then conditionally you can get more with a shield with Guan, right? So I think potentially you could get up to 25%. That's very, very low, right? Because you compare that to calves, or you compare that to archers, right? Like Herman and ZL both do 20%, so that's 40% right there. If you have YSG, that goes through the roof, right? Nevsky, Joan, secondary commander gets 60%. And then Guan, Scipio, conditionally, you could get up to 25%. It feels very, very low, right? Now, if
Mm-hmm.
you take Guan
Okay.
Skip, right? Now, this is just the second one. Never mind the third one, right? So, like, never mind you're talking about the third best March in the troop type, just the second best one. We're going to give it, like, we'll just pretend, like only 10 people on a continent got a 15% health city scan, right? Let's just pretend you're one of the 10 that got it. So you get a
Mm-hmm.
15% increase in health, right? You pick a civilization, which you wouldn't, because if you just look at the civilization in general, the Ottoman is just going to be the best, right? Because you get 5% march speed, you get 5% skill damage, and then the bonus is like the archer gets 5% health. So even if I
Mm-hmm.
was running an infantry, am I gonna go Viking? Am I gonna go Rome? Like I wouldn't even take the civilization health of the Viking or Rome over Ottoman. So I would still take Ottoman. But let's just say I even went that route, so I could get a special unit, right? So the special unit is increasing the base stats, right? And then so the base stat is like 216 or something for health. Uh, uh, you're either getting at most like one stat increase by about 5%. So it's going about 10 base health, right? Go from like 216 to 226 or something like that. It's less than 5%. And then what's happening is all the health increase is going to be 5% more than if you didn't have that increase in base health. So if I got a 15% health increase for the city skin, and I'm actually doing the special unit for that troop type, I still wouldn't take Guan Skip over ZL Hermit. Like, I just wouldn't. Never mind the third march, right? So how can you actually tell me that like specializing is a way to go? Because this is the second best march. Now you get to the third best march, like it's gonna fall off even harder, right? So
Right.
the most like versatile way, and just less mental gymnastics, is just do archer, cav, and infantry. Right now, if a commander comes out where like Belisarius comes out, fine, you're just gonna run Nev Joan. If you're specializing in calves and Belisarius Prime came out, then your third march, never mind your fourth and fifth march, or your second march, right? That already felt old is gonna feel even older if like a William Wallace comes out for infantry, but then you got Belisarius Prime.
Yeah.
Right. So like just from every single angle, I don't understand how someone could still make a recommendation to specialize someone. Now, having said all of that and ranting, right? I think you first want to start out one of each, and then from there, traditionally the safest one to go is going to be calves, right? So if you're going to do your fourth march, you go cav first. But honestly, right now, infantry is looking really, really strong, right? And then who knows by the time you actually can make that decision, what archer is going to be like. Right, so like I would actually just leave it open, plan on infantry, archer, and cav, and then by the time you get there, then you can kind of make that decision there.
Okay.
Right.
That's fair.
But I think for your spend, something to shoot for is going to be 6 marches. Because since
like
KVK...
6 marches by Season of Conquest, or
no,
ultimate. Okay.
Yeah, because you do 2-2-2, right? And then you have the flexibility. And then from there, what's really cool is if you do 2-2-2, when you get into an artifact KVK, some of these commanders that maybe are a little outdated for that troop type will actually pair really well with another troop type, right? Like YSG is an example. And there's going to be other commanders like that, right? Or like, for example, that's the best example, YSG. Okay, but that's like way down the road, right? So you want to have one of each, which realistically you won't be able to use Archer probably until KVK4. But you still kind of want to set it up there. So use it.
Okay. Yeah. For archer equipment, my plan, at least when I got to it, was going to be a 2-2-2 setup for the equipment. Is that your recommendation, or do you recommend something different?
Yeah, I think it's a micro optimization, but I think that would be the best. And I made a video about it, at least based on what gaming's formula, and then just stats. The leadership legs and the gloves actually mitigate damage, or like you come out ahead in stats better than going with the leadership boots, right? People see health on the leadership boots. You don't even realize it's actually fairly low, right? And then if you go leadership boost, then you kind of have to go leadership gloves, which gives you attack. And like when you combine them together, it actually comes out worse.
Okay. Because I had watched Archer Syndicate, who is like the Archer main.
Yeah.
That was like ultimately his recommendation was like the leadership boots and pants.
Yeah.
The KVK helm and weapon, which obviously that's far down the line. Because you can only get them in Season of Conquest. And then I think it was Dragon Breath chest and gloves, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, if you go leadership legs and boots, then you go Dragon's Breath chest and gloves. Now reality, like when I like did the math, like, and I have in the video, it's like less than 1% difference. Right, so it's such like a micro optimization. Like if you just ask me which one, I'll tell you why. But like most of the people that I saw recommending the boost, they just say it's because it gives health, and more health is better, right? So like if your reason is because health is the best stat, and you could get more health, but like without kind of taking into account the math, that's kind of my stance on that.
Okay, that's fair. I guess another question regarding equipment is, this early in the game, at least, like you mentioned back, however long ago, that you had 5 sets of equipment for Canyon because you really enjoy it. I have decent commanders for Canyon, but
Yeah.
because I really only have 2 sets of equipment, I definitely feel like the pinch of not being number 1.
Yeah.
When I have the commanders to be number 1, but I don't have the equipment for it.
Yeah.
And so I'll be beat by people who have, I guess, like lesser Canyon teams because they have
Yeah.
equipment on each of their marches. So like, to me it feels like it's not worth it to even be like, oh, I'm gonna craft like a full windswept set so I can put that on like my other infantry
Yeah.
march for Canyon. I feel like I guess, and you can confirm or deny this thinking, is I should just focus on crafting the legendary pieces and
For
not
your
worry myself with like the blue or the epic pieces.
for your KVK performance, it won't make a difference, right? But for your like satisfaction and pride and ego, and
Mhm.
enjoyment, that's kind of like your call. It's kind of like I think like a really
Okay.
good approach to nutrition or diet is you have to have built some built-in grace for someone to eat the stuff they enjoy, right? So
Right.
if they eat
Of
it,
course.
they eat that cheesecake. Is it going to help with whatever their goal is? Uh, just pure like physically, probably not. But then what about the the leeway and stuff, right? So
Hmm.
that's a little bit different for everyone. Now, having said what I said about the 5 sets equipment and stuff, right? Like, do I actually regret any of it now? Like, no. You know, it was actually a huge learning like lesson for me. It's like, oh, I messed up, you know,
Hmm.
but I don't regret
Hmm.
it now, like, because that lesson actually really helped me out in the future. I could like talk to people about it, right? So, was it really a mistake? Yes, for like what I thought I was doing, but you know, it kind of, who knows, right? Maybe if I didn't do that, I wouldn't make YouTube videos. I don't know. But
Yeah.
for KVK
What?
performance, no, no.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about dismantling the, I guess, like the second best equipment? So like in this case for my infantry set, like if it's like I do the math and I can craft, let's just say, the boots, and it's like I can craft the boots if I dismantle these boots. Should I do that, or should I hold on to them, that way I can put them on like another developing or growing march?
So you mean if you have like a second set of infantry equipment, should you dismantle it to make the first one better?
No, not necessarily. I mean, like in this case, like let's say I'm building out the infantry set right now,
Right.
and I'm like, okay, I have the blueprint for the boots, and I do the math, and it's like, oh man, I'm just shy by like 4 legendary materials. But if I dismantle
Oh yeah, I get what you're saying.
my
Okay.
current like boots, I can finally craft it. Do you recommend that, or should I be more patient, because then I can use the like this current epic piece on the next
Yeah, yeah.
second infantry march? It's going to be subpar because it's not legendary, but it's at least something.
Yeah. So this one, I did that for one set of equipment, and then I didn't do it for another set. So like for one set,
Mhm.
I just dismantled and then used that extra mat to craft the legendary faster. And the other one
Okay.
I didn't, right? So the trade-off is you get your legendary set easier, right? But then when I
Hmm.
was crafting, I think it was my second archer set or something, I didn't have anything to dismantle to start with. So everything I crafted, even the purple, right? I would have to actually go craft the purple and then get enough blueprints of special talented. Um, Looking back now, let me think. Okay, how quickly I would. This is my personality. I don't know if it's the right answer, right? I would
Okay.
actually anything that you can use in the future. So, for example, on the screen right here, I would dismantle
Hmm.
the witch's lineage, right? Because
Yeah.
like it's just
Oh,
not that good. I literally never crafted it. I skipped straight from whatever the hell I had before to straight to the Eternal Empire helm,
hmm.
right? So I have no problem crafting that. But for like the Karoks, the Frost Treads, and the gloves, right? If I know I'm gonna have a second infantry set in the future, I'll just keep it there, right? Like it's because like it's usually, you know, either 10 legendary mats you get from it, right? If it's 40 or if it's 60, you get 15 legendary mats back, right? So like does it like move it there faster? Like yes, but for me, knowing that I wanted to run 6 marches, I knew I wanted to run 6 marches in KVK2, by the way. Knowing that, like, and knowing I kind of already had something there where like the transition would be easier, I enjoy that. But I don't know if there's like a right answer for that. Like I enjoy, I've done both, and I actually prefer not dismantling, like between the two. But I don't think that's necessarily the right answer. It fits my personality.
Okay, fair.
Let's see. Was it? I thought there was something I wanted to say. But right now, equipment, right? And then as soon as you could start spending the wheel, everything into gold heads, besides maybe like just some initial spending on armament, just to get that to a decent place. Like there's a huge difference when you first have access to armaments if you spend a little versus like if you don't spend at all, right? Like the head start you could get on that will be way bigger. Will be way bigger than like commanders or equipment. So like take advantage of that. And then from there, it's just up to you. Some people hate it. Like I actually kind of like the armament system, right? So, but like I think it's for at least a mid spender, you definitely want to spend when you first have access to it to get the biggest bang for your buck as far as like progressing. And then once you kind of catch up in commanders, then everything goes into materials. So like stuff. Okay. So like events like the egg, like I still max it, but like something like Daruks or Esmeraldas, where it's just mostly mats, that is the one I almost like always max, right? Yeah. And I heard before where people were like, oh, the value isn't as good. Like, well, how are you comparing blueprints to mats, right? Like those are two different things. Like how do you actually compare the value? So knowing the bottleneck, and it's still my bottleneck now, right? Like I'm actually working on my 9th or 10th legendary accessory right now. But like I'm like, damn, I just wish I had more mats. I want to get it a good place. So yeah, the other one for you is to determine once, let's just say you have your 2 or 3 sets complete, whether you want to do a dagger or not. If you do a dagger, just do 2 off the bat. And the 2 in your march will make a bigger difference, right? And that's one where I don't know if it's necessarily right. I think the more marches you have, the more of a case you can make to have at least 2. I don't think you should have more than 3. But I think you definitely don't want just 1. You want at least 2.
Okay.
And then like as far as like spending and stuff, like because they always change, they tweak it, whatever. I don't want to like what's the best value. Like the best value is the dailies, right? The recharge event, and then like the loosen scroll, and then everything else. There's just like it's the next tier down as far as like whatever you're getting versus what you're spending.
Totally.
Okay. Was there anything that or an area that I didn't cover? Or do you have any questions?
Yeah, I think
I felt like there's something.
Yeah, I think. Well, you may have another thing you want to talk on, but at least for like, I guess game plan seems very straightforward. I guess I'll summarize the points you've made. Yeah. Getting an early jump on armaments is really important. If I can do it, because
you definitely can't do it. Like you actually, I'm just telling you to do it, right? Like if the Imperial armaments one that comes out every 2 weeks. I mean, I'm not telling you to spend this much, but you can spend up to like $385 on it. Like if you do that when you had nothing, literally compared to everyone else, like the advantage you're getting is massive, right? Whereas like if Esmeralda's comes out or something, or the Esmeralda's wheel, which came out maybe like a month or 2 ago, which is the best like as far as like gems and money for mass event I think Lilith has ever released. Like even if you max swung that, like the amount of advantage you're getting over the next person over it wouldn't be the same. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
that's only true early on, just because once your armament's at an okay place, like the upgrade that you could get from it is just limited, right? So because
Right.
there's
You
literally
get
a cap on
diminishing
the
returns.
yeah, there's literally a cap on the stats and everything where so yeah. Anyways, keep
So
someone
yeah, so
yeah.
so there's that. Equipment wise, focus on equipment. Don't focus on KVK2 commanders. Like skip those entirely. At least don't spend gold heads on those commanders. I know they do become available in the daily special offer pretty early on. So I might
Yeah.
do those,
I
but
mean,
don't put gold heads into them.
yeah, like one way to think about it is if you skip the daily special, right? That's $150 a month, right? You can
Yeah.
kind of get close to dropping a gold chest somewhere else. So
Yeah, that's true.
it feels weird for me because I've invested in dailies pretty much the whole time I've been spending, and only within the last like few weeks I stopped just because there's nothing. Like right now I'm like, oh, do I do YSS? Do I do Mulan? Like I don't even want to run Mulan because I don't have enough to do her museum, right? So like,
Mhm.
how big of an upgrade is it even over like an epic gem? So really, I'm not
Right.
spending right now until I think Margaret should be out soon in the dailies, right? And
Okay.
then like, but it's one of those where like it's because it's easy to just do $5 a day and like technically it's good value, but I just don't even know who I want to invest in, right? Like you could do like someone like Chandro or something. So depending on if you're going like Orleans, maybe you could use a skill. It's just none of them really appeal to me.
Okay. No, that I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Because yeah, you're right. It's $150 a month. That's $35 shy of reaching like
Yeah,
a
like a
single gold chest tier.
yeah, dropping a gold chest. So when you think
Yeah.
about it that way, and usually this isn't always the case, but usually, if you are gonna spend these where there's like tiers, rather than just doing the $5 one, when you go all the way up, um, let me take it back. Not usually, because sometimes it's the complete opposite, right? Like passports, you get less and less
Yeah.
passports the more you spend. But like the ones where it incentivizes you to actually go drop the gold chest on it, now like maybe you could justify doing it a little bit better.
hmm Yeah. And then I guess so. All that I feel like that appropriately summarizes most of what we talked about.
Yes.
So I was gonna say, besides that, in terms of let's say for KVK2, because KVK1, my trades are a lot better, so I don't
Yeah.
have to heal as much. My resource load is less. My healing speeds is less.
Yeah.
For KVK2, speaking as best as you can, how many resources and potentially speeds? Obviously, again, being more nuanced, taking into account that it depends on who our allies are, who our opponents are, how much fighting we do, how much not fighting we do. Generally speaking, how many resources, if I'm running, let's say 3 solid marches in the field, should I aim to have, and speed should I aim to have, so I can at least hit the kill achievement?
Oh, the kill achievement. You're not. It's not gonna even put a dent in your resources or your speeds.
Okay.
Now, if you're talking about like pulling like a bill KP or something,
hmm
I think even just that's not even what you have in your bag. Just what you have on the screen here, I think is enough.
Okay.
Uh,
I think like nearly 2 billion in my bags
yeah,
mixed.
because like people, I don't know. Sometimes I don't think they realize this. It's not actually how many troops you kill. It's how many troops you actually have to heal to kill that
hmm
many troops, right? So if we're doing like a bill KP, which if it's like mostly T5s, which won't be in KVK2, right? But if it's mostly T5, I usually do about 30 mil kills is about 500 mil KP. So you're talking about like 60 mil kills if it's mostly T5,
Okay.
right? So if it's a lot more T4, maybe some T3s, but by mostly T4s, it'll probably be like 80 mil kills if I had to guess.
hmm
I haven't. I mean, I haven't played in a while. So, but let's just say
Yeah.
like 80 mil kills, right? Like, how many do you think you're gonna actually have to heal? Right? Like for KVK2, with like what you're doing, I would be shocked if you weren't doing it at least 2 to 1, right? So, like, how much does it cost you to heal 40 mil T5, right? Or are you doing T4? I don't know.
I've just do full T5.
Yeah, so if you're doing like 40 mil T5, right? Just calculate the resource and the speeds for that, and you should have a good gauge. And honestly, like
Okay.
it probably won't even be two. It'll probably be better than 2 to 1. Honestly, just looking at kind of where you're
Mhm.
at.
Yeah. I mean, trades. What I have, I, I don't have too many like reports.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find this. This is like a rally report.
Yeah,
So it's
like
not
if you're
necessarily.
I mean if you're into like like kind of tracking that stuff, I don't get paid for this, but I use a reports manager by Cubus Mics. Like I love it, and
Mhm.
it's just something where I think he's charging like $50 for a year, and it's a little
That's good.
intimidating to set up, but there's a little like an instruction, and then you just kind of follow it, and it's been like awesome. So
Hmm.
yeah, but like
Yeah, I
you,
don't.
yeah, go
I
ahead.
don't know if I can run it. So you didn't. Surprisingly, you didn't ask the common like, "What do you play on?" question.
Well, you said
Um,
iPad, right?
yeah, yeah. So I'm on my iPad right now.
Yeah,
At home, it's an iMac. So it's
yeah,
not a PC.
yeah,
So essentially, on iMac, if you're not aware, is it's just playing from you download the Rise of Kingdoms from like the Apple App Store,
yeah,
and then the only thing that's different, what I equate it to, is it's pretty much playing on like your phone or a
yeah,
tablet, but the
yeah,
only difference is now I can type with a keyboard and then I
yeah,
can use my mouse as my finger. And
yeah.
so there's no hotkeys. There's you still have to like drag and drop.
That
So that's
sucks.
yeah, it's pretty rough. So I just don't know if Cubus Mics runs on Mac OS.
That I'm not sure.
Um, would be the only thing. But I've like generally like did some cursory looking into it out of
Yeah.
curiosity, but I never like messaged him to ask if it works on Mac
Yeah.
OS. I
So
probably
for
could. I'm sure he'd be pretty
you might want to
receptive to
look
that
into
question.
this. There's a because I know like Farmer, only Farmer plays on a iPad, but she was actually
Hmm.
able to find like some kind of is it a mod or something where she was able to actually run the test server on it, and the test server was actually only for PC.
Oh,
Right.
interesting.
So like
Okay.
there
Huh.
actually might be a way to use a Mac to run some kind of a mod or something
Hmm.
to play it, because like hotkeys are super important
Oh yeah.
for fighting
No,
over PC.
definitely.
Like I and like I'm not as I'm still like pretty like adamant that you play on PC. But with the new dot mode, my feeling is it's actually easier to play on the phone. I'm just not gonna go and try it out. But with the new dot
Yeah.
mode, and then they even expanded like how many commanders you can see on the right screen on the phone there now. It's probably a little bit better. But when I was trying to do it before, I'm like, oh my god, like what was I missing out on? And then when I try to go back and play on my phone, I'm like, okay, like I can never go back and play on the phone again. And this was not until I maybe Kingsland of KVK2 or something, or was it? No, it
Hmm.
was KVK3. It was actually fairly late into the process for me. It's like a night and day difference. So yeah, but iPad, I don't know, because first time I heard of someone playing on the iPad was Redline, and he does really really well in fighting playing only on the iPad. So
Hmm.
at least I know someone can do it. I've never heard of someone that's like doing really well on the phone. Maybe someone is, but the only people that I know that can actually play the phone seem to be like Siege players. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Less overall involvement
Oh yeah,
kind of thing.
it's completely different style of
Yeah.
play, right? Like I could do Siege on my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Totally.
yeah. All right. Yeah, and then as far as like for like as a content creator, based on just kind of like what you're telling me, I think if you, I don't know how familiar you are with the Imperium system, and then
Sort I would say sort of familiar with it.
okay, actually it'll be a video. It'll be one of the next videos I make. I think the title will actually be talking about like the ideal player, based on how Lilith
Hmm.
is actually doing their system. Not the actual, but like they almost like are encouraging this, and I'm going to talk about the Imperium system, the domain system, or the matchmaking system. Uh,
Hmm.
Understanding those two, and then just like in general, that formula from Wit Gaming, right? It's just basically a relationship between the stats and then just something like basic stuff, like a normal attack is basic attack and counter attack, right? Like rage stuff, like once you understand those, every one of these topics, like you'll already have a foundation to talk about in YouTube. You know? And my sense is that a lot of people just aren't that familiar with those basic things, and then it's very easy for them to just kind of like catch on to buzzwords without kind of understanding like why health, or why you want to be lean as a kingdom, right? Or like the whole idea of like dead weights, right? And like that will also help, you know, some the decision making and gameplay too. But literally like three things, right? Understanding stats, how they work, and then the matchmaking system, and the Imperium system. Now, the stuff that I'm really weak at is actually territories, like dropping flags and like how those work and everything. I never had to do it. I don't want to do it. So, without any experience and then without the desire to do it, I actually know, besides the very rudimentary stuff, I don't know anything about it. And I think that's really important. I just don't know anything about it.
No, that's fair. I think largely I've made the content thus far on my channel be more entertainment than informative, but there's a part of me where, you know, I feel like I'm still a fairly young player, but there is areas where I feel like I do have good knowledge on, and I want to be informative to my viewers, but largely I've just like provided entertainment content rather than informative.
That's totally fine too. Like you don't like I feel like everyone should actually just do what they enjoy. Wait, is someone calling me? What is this?
Sounded like it.
Oh wait, I don't know why Panther's calling me, but yeah. Hold on, let me see.
No, you're good.
All right.
But yeah, I guess I will say this kingdom does anticipate, because we didn't get the power drop. I mean, going into fighting, I was 92 million power. I've killed 1.2 million troops thus far, and I think we were expecting as a kingdom to be able to drop power a lot more in this KVK to help with our cross-season migration. But we're anticipating that will definitely be Imperium status in KVK2 because of the lack of fighting, honestly.
Yeah. Sorry. This is messaging him. Tell him. So you're saying you're expecting to get a lot more fighting this KVK or KVK2?
I expect so. I'm not so much involved in the like the diplomacy aspect, but there is like kingdoms within our, I guess, close proximity to us that I do know the leadership of. I have talked with them before, and I expect the fighting, like just the tier of kingdoms, to be a little more than what we experienced in KVK1. So I am expecting a lot more fighting to happen. And I would like more, because I feel like 80 million power even right now, and then after troop return, you know, I'll get like 300, I'll get like 3 or 4 million power back. Like I just feel like that's pretty chubby for like my ability to contribute to the kingdom, because I don't have like the best equipment or anything like that. Whereas kind of the long-winded video you made the other day on the hour-long one, where you talked about you would prefer the like 80 million power player over the 150 million power player, then kind of the nuance to that's kind of how it feels for me, where I'm like, I'm gonna be a fat chubby player power wise that's impacting matchmaking, but my ability to contribute just isn't as high as if we brought in like a cross season with the exact same amount of power, or even somebody with less power. So yeah, I expect we'll probably be Imperium most likely.
You actually, it's so funny. You actually want to be Imperium in the early game, because people see that little mushroom and, you know, they think it's a strong kingdom, they want to be part of it. Recruiting is very easy. Part of why kingdoms, so many young kingdoms fall apart in KVK5 is because a lot of the things that helps you be a strong, quote unquote, strong kingdom in the early game actually is the opposite in the late game, right? So like you actually want to be a high power, you want to be Imperium, you want that recognition in the early game, whereas in the late game, if you're really, really fat, especially now with the matchmaking, you just get wrecked. You know, like you get wrecked, right? Because like was that 3127? Is it 3127? They're literally an Imperium, right? So they're the youngest kingdom, I want to say, that's an Imperium right now. Don't quote me on that number. It's one of those numbers, but they have like more power than us with not even half of our KP, right? So when that goes into the domain system for matchmaking, it's not just power, right? We actually don't know exactly how Lilith is doing the matchmaking, but they're going to get matched up with someone that's just going to toss them around, right? Most likely.
Right.
And if not this KVK, then the next KVK is going to happen, right? So like Lilith is actually rewarding you for being very lame relative to your KP, because of the matchmaking. Because then you could 2v1 someone else, right? Like that's just where the game's going right now. Now, being lane doesn't actually mean you're the strongest kingdom. It just means like you're actually set up to be the most successful with Diplo and matchmaking in KVK, right? So,
right,
like the whole thing you're talking about with like being fat and stuff. The ideal player, right? I'm sure talk about this, is actually a player under 90 mil. Even if you're running 7 marches, like 90 mil max running 7 marches. Like based on how Lilith actually does Imperium system, the matchmaking, that's actually what they're pushing for, right? Without even probably consciously choosing that. So like a super high power Kraken is actually a dead weight in the open field, because no matter how much power you have, you can only run 7 marches, right? So and that's uncapped, right? You can look at the domain system uncapped. So if I have like a 300 mil power player, and then I talk about 90 mil, right? You could run 3 90 mil players and still have a little bit of room left over with 7 marches each, versus 1 300 mil power player with 7 marches. So would you rather have 21 marches on the field or 7 marches, provided the quality is there? Right now, that's not the only factor that goes into it, right? Like having a 300 mil player will help you with recruiting more, it gives you status, it allows them to kill off troops a lot more. But the reality is, like in this game, controlling the open field is necessary for anything else to happen, right? So you should actually bias the way you build a kingdom. You construct your own like account where you can help win the open field the most. That's my opinion, right? Some people will, like watch that video will come out probably sometime the next week, and just kind of watch the reaction, because I'm essentially, you know, telling a lot of people that they're actually hurting the kingdom by how much power they're carrying. So yeah. Okay. Do you have any other questions or anything?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I mean, you know,
I wanted to touch on.
I mean, we're friends in chat. You know, any like thing that comes up, you can always DM me in Discord. But
For sure.
I would say, as far as like actual learning the plane, like you already played before, but almost like kind of go into KVK2 now as like a whale, like thinking, okay, I'm not just going to just what's the word I want to use? Just be able to kind of like bully my way into everything, right? There's like, start learning how to micro your marches, like control. Like, you can actually figure out a way to use a Mac, but use some kind of like emulator or something for a PC, so you can have access to hotkeys. Start learning it now, right? Just because like the real big shock to the system will actually be in KVK3 when the end game commanders are available. Not KVK2. KVK2 you'll still be strong. KVK3 is when you'll actually probably feel the weakest.
Okay.
Then KVK4 you'll start kind of catching up a little bit on commanders and won't be as bad as KVK3.
That makes sense. Yeah. All
right. Well, there's nothing else. It's awesome talking to you. Definitely stay in touch. You know, pop in your streams if I have time and I see it.
Yeah, 100%. When I do stream, seldomly.
Yeah, I do. And YouTube's fun, man. You meet a lot of good people. yeah, like I'm glad I did it. It's just something where uh if you just keep sticking with it, you'll start kind of finding the stuff that you enjoy doing, your niche, and
Hmm.
then you start do that. Like don't feel like you have to make informative content or be really good at editing or like be really fun. Like just make something that you feel like you have a affinity for, where you're just pretty naturally pretty good at, and then that you enjoy doing, and then you'll figure it out.
Yeah, totally, totally.
Yeah,
No, I appreciate the advice. And yeah, no, it's interesting because yeah, like getting to know you, watching your streams, watching your channel grow, was good. And then yeah, other content creators like knowing my name is like, oh, that's so odd that like other people know who I am or have watched my content and have some kind of like interest in
yeah.
me or my kingdom. It's cool. It's pretty
Yeah,
neat.
I would say the first one for me was actually Spartan, right? Because like his stuff, I don't know, I just liked him the most probably when I was like a young player, like his equipment stuff. And then
Hmm.
first time I popped in his channel, I think he was like, "Oh hey, like I like your channel." I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome," you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, love that.
All right, man. Well, I'll definitely stay in touch. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
100%.
All right. Have
Thanks
a
for
good night,
chatting.
dude. All right.
You too.